Present the bids, or at least the winning bid, shall we say, for the FEMA Phase 5 Hurricane Matthew restoration. Off of Hurricane Matthew, the town received a grant from FEMA, a reimbursement grant on the order of $7.2 million. Of course, we were scheduled to do this, got all the permits. We're scheduled to do this last fall, and then of course we had Hurricane Florence, and everything kind of came to a screaming halt to deal with that. So what we have gone forward now, we have gone out to bid for this. It will be a truck haul project. On Friday, we received 6 bids. I'm sorry, yes, 6 bids. We received 6 bids. The low bidder was ST Wood, which is actually the company where the sand mine that we found that was appropriate grain size, quality, etc. Their bid was $330,460 to place 168,000 cubic yards along the 18,000 foot stretch that is Phase 5. The second bidder was at 5.45, and the third one was right about 5.6. So the bids are really close. So nobody was out of whack. It's not like they severely underbid, which always brings you concerns. Those 3 bidders that were all really close bid the Surf City project back in March, so they knew what the market was. The next 2 were in the middle of 6 million, 6.3 and 6.5, I believe, which was just under my estimate of 6,693,000, and then we had an if you'll pay me bid of 8.2. So what I would recommend to the board would be to go ahead and to award this to ST Wood. You still have remaining approximately $6.9 million in the grant after stuff that you've already done, preparatory with permitting, surveys, all of that type of stuff, stuff that was done by, I believe, coastal planning and engineering before we came on. So there is a significant, almost a 30% leeway for you. Total, we're looking at with their bid and our cost for construction management, which based on the proposal we gave you guys is going to be somewhere around $300,000. You're looking at a $5.6 million price tag, and you have $6.9 million coming back to you from FEMA. The other good part of this is my understanding as we work through this process, whoever wound up being the ultimate prime contractor, ST Wooten, is planning to go ahead and start doing some of the stockpiling of the sand prior to November. So that means there will be some partial payments that will go along, so it'll spread out over from now through probably January or so, maybe early February, and that way you'll actually have an easier cash flow time with doing that and getting your grant monies back. Also, which is a major concern on the cash flow, what we've been seeing in Topsail Beach off of Hurricane Matthew is between 20 and 24 days getting the money back. So it's usually less than the 30-day time frame that you have within the contract to actually pay the contractor. We're able to put in the invoices the day we get them on the 10th, and they're typically coming back between the 1st and the 3rd. So that, in that case, if those things continue to do like that, and I believe you have the same person administering, I believe is Bruce. Brian Snell. Bruce Snell used to be the manager down in Manhattan County. Brian Snell. So that shouldn't be a problem with you guys getting that back, and you should have a fairly easy cash flow time. So it would be my recommendation we do that and start getting some sand on the beach November 15th.
November 15th?
Yes, ma'am.
Chris, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Are they screening this for
yes.
the rock issue?
Yes, sir. And I will tell you, on the rock issue, a couple of things. Yes, they are screening the way it was put into the contract, because they're actually, the mining permit at the site requires that they remove it hydraulically to not bring down the water table. So they pump it up and recycle all the water. They can't pump the water table down and do it with land-based equipment. And so in this spec, we required them to put it through what's called a mech basket. It's used for munitions. Up in the Northeast, they use it a lot to take 50 caliber rounds and stuff out, because there's a lot of that offshore there. So this will be pumped through a mech basket and screened on site as it's being harvested. So it will be completely clean coming in. That's already included in the price and won't be added.
I kind of gathered it was, but I want them to hear.
Yeah, sure. Oh, that's a good point. And realistically, when you add that back in, compared to Surf City, you're almost $8 a yard less because we're doing the screening on site this way rather than taking it and mechanically rehandled. So I think the unit price was only $31.02 for this. So it's a very, very good price for the length of haul that you're having to deal with.
So the project starts on the 15th of November legally.
Yes, sir.
What volume of trucks are we talking about?
So what we were seeing with it being pre-screened and stockpiled, we were seeing in Surf City as much as 4,500 cubic yards a day. So that's looking at, they were doing close to 300 trucks a day.
300 trucks?
Yeah, so.
Okay, so Wooten has that number of trucks. I don't know what the distance back and forth.
Cycles were about 5 cycles a truck. So you're talking about 50 to 60 trucks.
Okay. And that's 24 hours a day, or?
No, that was only 12 hours a day.
12 hours a day.
So if they were doing it for 24 hours, which I don't expect them to do, I think that complicates things. I would expect them to do daylight. You're looking at anywhere from 3,000, a little bit longer hauls, so anywhere from 3,000 to 4,500 yards a day would be expected. I expect Wooten, I expect them to use some of their internal trucks. We haven't discussed this, but there are a lot of freelancers. CM Mitchell was doing Surf City. There was a lot of freelance work on the trucking, but then all of the actual grading and placement, your off-road trucking was done internal with them. I expect ST Wood to be the same.
Okay. So the trucks come through Grace Street and Duff, and then there are other off-road trucks then that pick it up and move it to the location?
That's correct. So it will be laid out. The plan right now is to lay it out in front of Grace Street, much like, again, we did down south of the pier at Surf City. Then be rehandled, not instantaneously, but almost, same day. Be rehandled, put into the off-road trucks. When it's placed in, we're going to do mostly a dune restoration because that's what you really need. So when that's placed, they'll come in and they'll lay a couple rows out. They'll lay a row out. Maybe say they're working on a 500-foot section. They'll lay a row out. They'll lay another row out, and probably after the third row, they'll start grading after they've got enough material there, and then shape that to what we want, to the template we want, and then move on to the next section. That's typically how we've done things with most of our truck haul projects.
And what is the route of the trucks?
The trucks are going to come through Surf City now that we've got the new bridge open. That probably knocked several dollars a yard off of it for you.
Because their proposal, I thought I read that they were coming up 210 to.
We'd originally done that, but
across our bridge. Yeah.
We originally had that, and we released folks to go ahead and schedule to come to South Side. That was originally when we did it, was because the swing bridge wouldn't carry the load.
Right.
It wouldn't even carry a double axle load. So we're gonna allow either way, whatever's more convenient.
Chris, I got a question for you, and I think about the FEMA money.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You're saying that with Wooten's bid and then your fees, we're at about 5.6, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, and you said FEMA's, our allocation was 6.9?
No, what's remaining, it was like 7.2, and the number that was in your packet, 693 something or other.
Right.
We have
That was what Betsy told me was
Yeah,
left.
$6,930,000.
So we can use that other places and just submit receipts to get reimbursed for sand, or what do we have to do with that?
Well, that we have to get authorization from the state to use that remaining monies for anything else. 'Cause
Okay.
right now, it's only allotted for the Hurricane Matthew project.
So it's not really ours. I mean, we just had, that was our upper limit. Is
Yes,
that right?
correct.
If we don't hit our upper limit, we can't use the difference to maybe build dunes someplace else in the town or anything like that,
No,
right?
we're gonna ask.
Okay.
It's worth asking.
Cool.
Yeah,
Right.
that's correct. There is a, that's correct.
Chris, I did,
It's a work
my
in progress.
question was on vegetation and sand fencing. Does this project include that at all?
This project does not include, and this is one place where his question is very viable. The original, because of what it was with Hurricane Matthew, and being Category G at that time, we didn't have a dune situation. So there was no dune replanting included in the original, which we didn't do, but in the original FEMA grant application. Being that it is state law that if you put in a dune that you have to replant it, I would say that we could certainly look to tap into that remaining 1.6 to 1.3 to do that. Because FEMA does require that we do plantings because it's North Carolina law. So that's certainly one place that we'll go utilize that.
Is there anybody that disagrees with that? Because I would like to see that for sure.
No.
Sure. So what's the process? Do you have to officially make application to FEMA, or just go out
As
and?
we spend, then we get reimbursed. When we get to that point where we're wanting to put out a contract for the planting, then we need to have that discussion with Brian Snell to make sure that will be
I see.
included before we spend the money. And if we're gonna do that, we need to go ahead and do that, because those plants need to go, they need to start planting those now in order to be ready for next season. Planting. I put a couple of guys on alert that between all the towns, we're looking at somewhere around 1 million plants that this island's gonna need, this year.
Okay.
So they've already been notified to go ahead and start putting them in.
Perfect, thank
So
you.
that work is in progress, the planting.
The planting, yeah, so the greenhouses are already starting to plant, because they've been calling me for a month and a half. How many do you expect? You know, you got stuff coming. And I've said realistically right now, 1 million for the island, it may be more, but that's.
I mean, are you obliged to go out with a bid package or
Yes,
anything?
absolutely.
So then, Brian, do we need to give any direction there on pulling a bid package together for vegetation and sand fencing?
Well, before we do that, we need to contact,
Talk with FEMA.
Betsy and I talked about it yesterday about contacting Brian Snell, to make sure that we could utilize that, and, then that way we could go ahead and do the bid package out. But we need to make sure from Ryan, from the state, that we can make that change.
So if it's appropriate, we'll just put it on our next month agenda?
Correct.
I'll call him
Go
tomorrow.
ahead, make
Thank
the-
you.
I'll make the motion that we award the bid for the Phase 5 restoration project to the ST Group Corporation.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Well done, deal.
Great. Mr. Eads, if you would, in the package that we sent them had the contract document, basically the same thing we did with Surf City. But if you will look through those and just make sure that there's nothing that would offend the town, just to be safe.
Are the general and supplemental conditions in that bid packet?
Yes, sir. All the conditions are in there. It's a relatively small package.
Thank you, Chris. And I have another item I need to ask you about before you leave. So if you're about to leave, I'll walk over there.
Sure, I remember what it was now. No, I don't.
Chris, thank you so much for
Chris,
being here. Appreciate it.
very good.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
All right. Moving ahead, we're at open forum, 3 minutes. Anybody in the audience who wants to address the board for any reason?
She's got some.
Yes, Mr. Jeff Meyer signed up.
I'll try to keep this shorter than the closed session. I just want to announce, as we did last year, or last election, we held a meet and greet for all the candidates. We're holding the one for North Topsail Beach on the 15th of September. Being as we have 4 candidates, we're looking at allowing probably 10 minutes worth of time per candidate versus the 5 that we offered last time. Function will start at 3:30. Candidates will speak at 4. We'll do the same thing as far as order who speaks. We drew cards last time, so there couldn't be anybody. Well, I didn't get to go first, so I wanted to go last. You got a card, that was your slot. If anybody wants one of these brochures, you have to press spell. Everybody knows me in here, this is press spell. So, anybody needs one of these, please let me know.
Thank you very much for doing that.
All right, anybody else on the last call? Anybody who wants to address the board in open forum? Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion regarding the consent agenda?
Make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Okay. I would make one recommendation in the future on WASA, that item be taken off, because every customer of WASA gets a monthly newsletter from them when they get their bill. So I don't think it's any need to repeat. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, now we're into continuing business. Occupancy tax ordinance or policy.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, last month, the board directed me and staff to come back with either an ordinance or policy that would allow for more, my word, not the board's, aggressive enforcement of occupancy tax collections. And since the general statutes of the state of North Carolina already provide the power or authority and the different collection remedies, there's no need to adopt an ordinance. So I have in front of you a proposed policy. Forgive the two typos where it has Board of Aldermen. It should be Board of Aldermen. In the second, third paragraph, and I thank the clerk for catching that for me. But essentially, it just lays out the type of collection remedies, and that's the bullet points. You can collect occupancy taxes through attachment and garnishment of intangible property such as bank accounts and wages. You can levy and sell tangible personal property, for instance, boats, cars, anything of significant value that would make it worth the time to go through the administrative procedure to do the levy and sale. Through the state, you could do the set-off debt collection process, and you could garnish essentially any governmental refunds due, tax returns, things of that nature. You can file a civil lawsuit for money owed, and that is in conjunction with the last one, which is foreclosure. Unlike property taxes, occupancy taxes aren't an automatic lien on the property. You have to first file a suit and get a judgment of the debt owed, and then that debt judgment becomes a lien on the property, and then you can foreclose on that judgment. And additionally, you can prosecute, it is a misdemeanor to not timely report and pay occupancy taxes. So that's one of the remedies. You can prosecute someone criminally. You can assess the civil penalties and interest. And then in the second to last and last paragraph, you direct, the policy proposes that you direct town staff and authorize town staff to use any one or any combination of those remedies to maximize returns. And lastly, and this is based on a case that was just handed down by the North Carolina Court of Appeals this month, since our last board meeting. You're going ahead and authorizing the town manager to bring either criminal or civil suits. The new case, a case was thrown out because there was no resolution or ordinance in that case. It was a town case. And the court said since the board didn't vote to prosecute the case, that's different than defending a case. You have to defend yourself. The court in that case said that there was no standing, they didn't have the power to bring the suit. So as a catch-all here, if you adopt this policy tonight, you are authorizing the town manager to direct me and hopefully me or my successor to bring whatever cases, criminal or civil, that are needed. And I also noted at the very top, I cited way back to the December 6th resolution where the town levied the tax. That was the first step after session law, Senate Bill 92, Part 5, Section 5.1 was passed in 2001. That's up there for historical reference, but it's pretty straightforward. And I think as much as anything, it puts the public on notice that the town is directing staff, including the town manager, to aggressively pursue these remedies as needed. I would recommend that the state of the law is a little bit in flux right now. There's some rumblings in Raleigh that the General Assembly is going to preempt local regulation, not occupancy taxes, but regulation, because the School of Government recommends that we implement a registration type program, and you phase that in, and then that gives you another avenue of revenue, because if you don't comply with that registration, it's not a tax, it's a fee for non-compliance. But also, there are tools in a regulatory scheme that give you more data that would help you track whether people are being forthcoming. We can go ahead and start that. I've talked to Betsy about it, and she's done a lot of research herself. Talked to Laura and Brian about it. We can probably bring that back September, October at the latest. The only thing I will caution you is that it's going to take several months to implement and work the kinks out. And it may all be for naught if the General Assembly preempts it, because the General Act would preempt anything we do locally.
Okay.
So that's my summary. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Any questions for Brian?
If you're in agreement with the policy, sans the typos, which I'll fix, I recommend that you pass this resolution and so staff can act accordingly.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll move to adopt the resolution as amended.
Second motion.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Clerk, call roll.
Alderman Benson.
Aye.
Alderman Peters.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Aye.
Alderman Leonard.
Aye.
Okay. All right, resolution adopting policy for collecting occupancy tax on rental accommodations within the town of North Topsail Beach has been approved.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Board.
Thank you. All right, Brian, one more item.
This will be hopefully quick and easy. Last month, if you recall, there was an easement item on the agenda. I asked that it be made subject to the town attorney's approval. The board passed, authorized the conveyance of the easement. As it turns out, there is not a recent legal description of the easement area. So Laura, the town clerk, discussed the situation with, and as did Deb, I believe Laura this week spoke with the family that wanted the easement. And they're willing to accept a right of entry, encroachment agreement. I've got the core on my mind, sorry. Encroachment agreement similar to the ones we've done in the past to allow people to build walkovers. That's actually more favorable for the town, and it does not involve the conveyance of a actual property interest, which I think would perhaps implicate the advertising requirements, which would string out that process. Plus, it saves the Bunn family.
Yes, sir.
The Bunn family the time, cost, and expense of having to hire a surveyor to do a fresh legal description. We've done it in the past, so there's a historical precedent, not a legally binding precedent, for us to issue these types of encroachment agreements. DOT does it all the time, and I would recommend, in lieu of the easement that you approved last month, you authorize staff to present and enter into an encroachment agreement with the Bunn family.
All right, so we need a motion to approve this encroachment agreement.
Yes, sir.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I actually would appreciate it if, I don't know, Deb, if you could, somebody needs to refresh my memory on where the property is and what we're.
That's the Goldsboro?
Oh, it's the
The,
Goldsboro Lane.
the one that you and I
Okay.
spoke about?
Yep.
This
That sounds
is-
good.
What we're asking for is even less than what you've already authorized, but
I understand, I couldn't remember which location it was for, that's all.
Since it's a different type of legal instrument, I thought we needed board approval. Otherwise, we could just go ahead and go on that way. So I would request a motion to approve entering into a correction agreement with the Bunn family.
I will make a motion that we approve entering into an encroachment agreement with the Bunn family for the property on Goldsboro Lane.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Motion passed. All right, moving on to new business. The item here on new business that's still on the agenda is the applicant selection for board vacancy. All right, I recognize Tom Leonard.
Make a motion that we appoint applicant Jerry Hyde to fill the vacant position on the Board of Aldermen.
A second.
Okay. Any other nominations?
We make a motion that we place in vacancy Becky
Dixon.
Dixon.
Dickerson.
Yeah. Becky is on, Becky has family business and couldn't be here tonight. All right. Is there a second for that nomination?
I'll second for discussion.
All right. All right, so we have one board vacancy and we have 2 nominations. Okay, so why don't you survey the board as to who they vote for?
I'd be happy to. So, in relation to the mayor's question of who do you cast a vote for, Alderman Benson.
Jerry Hyde.
Jerry Hyde, okay. Alderman Peters.
Jerry Hyde.
Mayor Pro
Jerry
Tem.
Hyde.
Jerry
Alderman-
Hyde.
All right, unanimous, Jerry Hyde.
Sorry.
Welcome to the board.
So
You'll be sworn in at the end of the month, or at the end of this meeting?
We can
Okay,
swear,
we can do
when
that.
can we swear him in, Clark?
I suppose we could at the end of the meeting. I can get prepared to do that because I can Google the oath. I assume we would do it at the first item of business for the next meeting, but that doesn't have to be the case. That would keep him from being able to serve this month. So if you'd like to do it.
Well, here's an option too, is I think we did Jeremy in a separate time, independent of a meeting, so whatever, tomorrow or
Yeah, you
Monday
can
or.
start in town.
Stop by.
A lot of the board is going to attend. We gotta make sure we don't violate open. We have a
Well, the
meeting.
board, if you,
It's a ceremony.
well,
I'm just raising
right?
it.
no, well, you're both right. It is a ceremony. However, if you have a majority there and you start discussing town business, then you're violating the open meeting laws. I would highly recommend that you do a separate ceremony. I think that the office, it's a dignified situation. But the board, those in attendance, if there's a quorum or majority, not discuss town business. I mean, you can say congratulations, you can talk about the weather and what your plans are the next day, but don't talk about town projects and town business.
Well, when you guys have it figured out what time and date, can you just let us know?
All right.
Sure.
Congratulations.
And can we also make sure the records, show that we appreciate the other applicant as well for her time? And I know that, yep, again, I know that she's, on a board now, and I'm very thankful for that as well.
We have 2 strong candidates. Okay. Both of them are serving the town as volunteers, and that's appreciated. Jerry, a long time. Okay. Becky more recently, but nonetheless, has an important job. So that's what we like. I think. All right. Moving on. Open forum one more time. Anybody?
I have one thing. I just wanted to make sure that the sand that is being from the Army Corps of Engineers it's still full go and it's all gonna go onto the beach, correct?
The 250,000.
Talking about I'm gonna address the status of that, and if you'll wait a minute, the attorney's report, I'll give you some pretty good detail on that.
Okay, great, thanks.
Anybody else?
I hope you find a good detail.
Well, it has to be good now.
All right. So, attorney's report.
The core project, I think they're calling it the Inlet Crossings Project, is a go. It's been advertised. We have all but 2 easements, and I know that we had those easements because they are a duplex in phase 1, and we had 100% easements in phase 1. Unfortunately, due to hurricane damage, whatever. Long story short, we cannot locate those last 2, and they are not filed with the Register of Deeds in Austin County. I know that we had them because I picked them up personally from the lawyer's office in Hampstead, drove them to a town hall meeting, and I just don't recall who did what with them from that point. However, the Corps is satisfied that if we file a quick take action by August 6th, on or before the close of business of August 6th, that since it's a quick take, we are immediately seasoned with the easement, that the project's going forward as scheduled. As to the placement of the sand, ma'am, that's really their decision. They do issue a map that has a approximate construction template, and we can get that for you. I don't have a copy with me here today, but the vast majority of it is on the beach. But some of that has to do with the topography out there too, and the way it interplays with the equipment used to place the sand.
Right.
But the intention is to place as much as you can, as much as they can on the shore in an effective manner. That's that project. I'm pleased to announce that on July 23rd, we received the processing agreement from the Corps on the art structure project. Dow Cordy, right after the sub from the Corps sent it to us, he went on a week-and-a-half vacation. He came back the other 2 days ago. He and I spoke at length today. Dow Cordy had a few questions. I think the Corps has answered those questions to our satisfaction and Dow Cordy's satisfaction. So we're going to execute the processing agreement, move forward to the third-party contract, and that's almost simultaneously. And then we'll be in the phase of the actual formal preparation of the EIS, and that will determine what the Corps looks at as to what is and is not permissible for us to do with respect to a art structure. But very good news to finally get that. I have a few other items to talk about in closed session, and that concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Mayor's report, I have only one item. Happily, Governor Cooper signed Senate Bill 95, and in Senate Bill 95, there's $1.6 million for North Topsail Beach towards fluoride projects. We were obliged to report this fall as to how we plan to spend that money, so we have some work to do between ourselves and our town manager. Alderman's report.
Appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Appreciate your patience with our closed session. The Senate Bill 95 that the mayor's referring to was the one that effectively booted the Resource Institute out of the overall picture, and it was initially going to be just North Topsail Beach that got relief from the fees that were going to be associated with using the Resource Institute. But a lot of this truly had to do with the hard work the mayor did behind the scenes with people like Harry Brown. This is what got this thing going. So kudos to the mayor on that. And again, thanks everybody for coming out, and congratulations, Jerry. Be careful what you wish for.
I would also like to thank Mayor all the time that you put into the Resource Institute funding, so that's very appreciated. I also want to welcome Jerry. I want to thank everybody for coming. I will be at the Brass Pelican. I'll have to try and think about what I'm going to talk about for 10 minutes, but I'll be there.
And you won't have any problem.
Richard?
I would just reiterate, thank you for your patience being here tonight, and also congratulations here. Congratulations, Jerry, and
Condolences.
your patience with our closed session before back to our regular meeting. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. All right, that concludes the Alderman's report. On this agenda, we're going into closed session again to consult with the attorney on to preserve attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged. So I need a motion.
I just want to add another basis for closed session to discuss potential litigation.
Okay. Okay.
Go ahead, man.
So you need a motion?
We need a motion to go into closed
So
session.
moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So.
Thank you all.
Bye. We're leaving this time.
Not going, just across the way.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you for.
Hey,